Hey, we usually talk about Floyd's right now, but we want to steal this real estate for the pre-race ride we're doing Thursday. Pay attention to the date now. Thursday, August 12th.
Yeah, we're going to talk one more time about this Thursday ride, August 12th, 9 a.m. I think we've made it clear. It's Thursday, 9 a.m. We're going to be showing you the first few miles of the course, including the all-important first climb, that is the first mile, point 1 of Kevens, and the last few miles of the race as well.
So this ride's going to start at Ice Palace Park in Leadville, saddle up right out of town, partway up Kevens, the first mile of it or so, where there's that sharp left-hand turn. We'll then flip around and return to town via the boulevard. And we're going to keep this pace chill.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have some really great guests for you to talk with as you are riding. We're going to have Pete Stetina. He's been on the show before. Floyd Landis of the famous Floyds of Leadville. Envy. And then, of course, the feed sponsor rider, Mel Rollins. You may have heard me mention her before because she is my stepdaughter and a pro racer now. Brandon Dijksterhouse of the Feed is going to be there. Of course, my wife, the Hammer, is going to be there. And of course, there are going to be lots of other podcast listeners like yourself.
Don't worry, despite the great lineup, we're going to keep it chill. Fatty will make sure of that. When you're back, Floyd's of Leadville and the Feed will be on hand with some thank yous for supporting the show, and we'll bring some cool bottles and musette bags from DNA for a few lucky folks.
Yeah, so mark your calendars, Thursday, 9 a.m., Google Ice Palace Park, Leadville for the location. And like everywhere in Leadville, parking is severely limited. So, and I'm serious about this. There's room for maybe 3 or 4 cars there. So if you can ride your bike to the park, please do. And we will see you there. Last episode before the race. Looking forward to seeing you on Thursday.
And thanks to Floyd's, the Feed, and DNA Cycling for sponsoring this ride and the show.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Floyd's of Leadville. It is season 4, episode 19 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Houghton, Hottie to most.
And I am Fatty. We are getting close to race day. We are in Leadville, and Hottie and I have got a nice little top 10 list of things you might want to remember on race day. Not your normal top 10 list, I promise you. These are things we've talked about before, but worth getting back top of mind as you get ready for the big day.
Yeah, like Fatty said, we are in Leadville. I guess we're kind of lucky to be here because there's like a public works showcase going on in the state of Colorado with all the tractors and earth movers and highway shutdowns. We told you, I think, a couple of shows ago about I-70. If you're coming from out west, again, folks, we want to remind you that you definitely have to find a way around the I-70 if you're coming from that way. Fatty, by the way, the 24 outside of town here between Leadville and Twin Lakes, they've been working on that stretch of road there. You and I went out that way today for a hike out at Twin Lakes. There was a lot of traffic control out there. Folks coming into town are going to notice that. I checked in with the Colorado Department of Transportation, and their information says that they will not be working on the road on the weekend. So it looks like we'll have free run down to Twin Lakes Dam early in the morning when the race gets going.
Yeah, that could have been a disaster for crews. Yeah, there was a 20-minute to 30-minute wait each way.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Colorado's just been under the gun with the weather and the road problems. They've had some real issues in the state. So if you're still trying to get into Leadville, a little patience is probably going to be required.
Little patience and a little research. Make sure that the route that you have chosen is available. I needed to take an extra 90 minutes to get into town, and I'm glad that, well, actually the Hammer did all of the research to make sure that we did not wind up taking I-70 East. And as a result, everything was just fine. Had we taken I-70 East, I don't know, I'd still be, I guess, somewhere waiting out in a line outside of Glenwood Canyon.
Yeah. But if you're in Leadville, great. We're glad you're here. Good luck with your race. We want to say that first and foremost. If you're listening to this after the race, well, it's still going to be worth listening to, we hope. You're going to learn about the course changes, which Fatty got some firsthand recon knowledge of since he's been here a week or more than a week before race day. And so we're going to get some firsthand knowledge of what these course changes look like. We've got a lot of reports, kind of second, third hand stuff. But Fatty, I guess the first note here is, wow, what a difference 2 weeks can make. Because 2 weeks ago, for instance, we were talking about how bad the upper section of Powerline looked to some folks. We saw a lot of posts on Facebook. We got some accounts from some stage racers that it didn't look great up there. You rode that section yourself. What did you find on the upper section of Powerline?
I found it delightful. I honestly, so I have not ridden down from Powerline yet. And so that is going to be perhaps a different perspective. I might go take a look at it on Wednesday, so right after this show goes out. But going up it, I cleaned it. And I don't often, even with fresh legs, clean the power line. I never put a foot down, and there was always an obvious and a good line. I don't think that is exclusive to the climb either. I think that there is a good line for the entirety, up and down. I know that a lot of people have been putting in a lot of work to make it that way. So if power line has been keeping you up at night or invading your dreams, maybe relax a little bit. I think it is going to be just fine. I know some people personally who did power line down on a rigid gravel bike and said it was okay. And my experience was similar. So it's not something you need to be freaking out about.
We've always on the show expressed a word of caution about descending that thing in the morning because of whether we've had lots of rain here or not. It can be a tight area. It can be a dusty area. The sun is awkward there. It's kind of getting in your eyes. So, whether or not you find the upper section of Powerline to be different this year or not, you want to exercise caution. You don't want to blow your race there. Now, let's get to the actual course changes that the race series had laid out for us and for the rest of the racers due to some issues with the National Forest Service, with too many crowds gathering at Twin Lakes, with the COVID issue. All these reasons brought about some specific course changes out there on the Leadville course. First of all, we want to look at this private property workaround that we're now doing. And we're no longer, coming off Twin Lakes Dam, going through that double track. We're doing that still. We used to make a right as we came out of the forest area. Now we're making a left to go around the private property. We're kind of working away from Columbine. A bit of a surprise there, but it's all to get around the private property. How was this section for you?
So this is going to add more distance than anything else. And there's no way around it. It is going to make it so that your time to the base of Columbine a little bit later. It is a little bit slower. That said, on outbound, it feels more downhill than up to me. It feels like you are really moving up until you get to the road where you can see the base of Columbine and you're going to start climbing. You might have the Twin Lake Dam alternate feed right there, in which case you're going to stop and rest. But it felt faster and easier than before. So that additional distance, it's going to add some time, but it's not going to add a lot. I really do feel like on the way back, however, that same distance, really, it felt like it looks flat and it's not. It is a little bit uphill, and so it gets in your head a little bit. That extra 100 feet or whatever of climbing, it's soft dirt and you kind of feel like you're grinding a little bit. It feels a little bit slow and the distance is there. So it's going to cost you a little bit. And plus you're going to be doing it on legs that have just been recovering from your 3,000 foot climb up to Columbine.
Mm-hmm. We heard from some of the stage racers that I think the section of road you're talking about there is 28A, if memory serves. It's the road that comes off of the short paved section, right? And it was supposedly a little washboardy too, and rough, and maybe some wind out there too.
A headwind, definitely, and you really felt that. When something looks flat, but it is a little uphill and it has a headwind. Of course, wind can change every hour in Leadville, so the time of day matters as much as anything. But don't be too surprised if you find yourself suffering more than you feel like you ought to on that little section.
Yeah. Okay, so you went up Columbine as well, and of course we have a new turnaround up there. What did you find at the top of Columbine?
I found relief. It was nice. So you do all of the climbing to get to the turnaround that you would have done anyway. The new turnaround is right where you used to turn left after doing all of that hard climbing on the goat trail. And for most of us, the hike-a-bike, and then you used to turn and sort of ride and work your way around rocks and little mud holes. Instead, now you go 50 feet further, and then you have an acute left turn, from one Jeep road double track onto another Jeep road double track. And that is a very sharp turn that if you are not paying attention, and we're at 12,500 feet, it's easy to not be paying attention because you're boggle-headed and cross-eyed. If you don't watch yourself, it would be easy to wash out a front wheel. Nothing serious, but pay attention and be on the lookout for that. And then you are at the turnaround and on your way back down to Leadville.
Can you carry speed through this turnaround? No?
Absolutely not. You're going to, because you are literally doing, not literally a U-turn. You're doing a V-turn is what you're doing. And that's much harder to do than a U-turn because it is a sharp angle. So yeah, you got to you're changing your direction in very little space.
And we've professed a no stop rule at the top of Columbine based on the previous turnaround. What about here? Can people, if they absolutely need to, stop there and get refreshed?
Sure, if you need to, definitely do. But to me, it feels like this does not have the space that the old aid station did. I don't think there is going to be the room for people to, set up shop or set up camp or look for things. Of course, if you need to get your aid station bag, then do. If you need to eat something, then do. There will be space for people, but I don't think it's going to be a place where you really want to hang out for very long.
And Columbine itself, just like you remembered it, always up and down?
Yes, with one difference. So on the way down, for the longest time, you spend the entirety up until you get off the goat trail in two-way double track. Now, if I understand right, and I think I do, the downward traffic is going to be diverted onto a nicer road a little bit sooner, which means the two-way scary rocky descent is going to become one way. And that's a real safety benefit, something that I have always been a little bit afraid of. Right before you finally get off of that goat trail is when it seems like it is worse and your hands are tired from the braking. Now, at least you're not going to have to be worrying about people who are marching their bikes uphill anymore. And that's a good thing. And as you're marching up, you don't have to worry about people bombing their bikes downward. So a real safety improvement as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Now we're back down off Columbine Mine. We go through that private property workaround again, and we're headed for the single track, but not. We're going to miss the single track, right? How's this new reroute work that misses the single track inbound?
Yeah, see, I'm terrible at reading maps. You know that, Audie, the worst. I didn't understand how much easier and how much faster this little section is going to make it. This is going to be where you really find yourself with some significant gains in terms of shortness of time between Twin Lakes Dam and the pipeline, because instead of turning left off of the pavement and heading up onto the single track, you continue on the pavement, and it's pretty easy climbing for an extra, I think it's 3/4 of a mile. Then it's a left turn onto double track, and for all of this, suddenly, where it used to be single track and having to kind of really burn a match to get around someone, it is places where you can work together. You can work together easily on pavement, of course, but this double track is smooth and fast, and it is a very easy grade. It is a brand new opportunity in both cases for you to look behind you, look ahead of you, find someone about your speed, and work together where you otherwise couldn't. And where it dumps you back out into the pipeline section is after a little stinker. And I understood that intellectually before, but when I actually pre-wrote it and suddenly found myself, I was like, I only have 2/3 of the pipeline section left in front of me. And it was a revelation. I was like, this work that was a lot easier put me a lot further along the course. And it was exciting. And I think on race day, it's going to be an incredible relief to people who see what a difference that's going to make in their possible finishing time.
And any other surprises on Pipeline or anywhere else that you rode?
No, after that pipeline felt fast. It seemed really smooth. Not a lot of mud holes. Sometimes there is a lot of weaving on Pipeline. There is not a lot of that right now, and that's true of the whole course. There was some rain a week before I got here, and that seems to have made the course super nice. And now there is less washboarding than I'm used to. Going down Hagerman's, usually that is, all your teeth get knocked loose and they're all over the course. No, I was able to just open it up and have a gel without even touching my brakes. You can go as fast as you want down that without getting rattled like you usually do. The course, and everything can change, et cetera, et cetera. Standard disclaimers apply. The course feels and looks fast right now. I think these changes could mean a faster Leadville 100 than has ever been done before. Up front, we might see some new records. We might see some, in the 12-hour range, some new buckles. The people who needed that extra minute, they might get it in that single track reroute.
Yeah, that's a big turnaround from what we initially assessed when they just laid it out on paper and they said, well, look, we got an extra mile and we have these extra workarounds. It sounded like initially this was going to cause more trouble than benefit, but the coin is flipped, right? We really turned the table here.
Yeah, and it could be that I'm wrong. I've been wrong many times before, but having seen all of the changes up close and personal, to me, it feels like, you're still going to be smoked at the end of the day, right? That is not going to change. You're not going to come off doing the Leadville 100 and say, you know what, I'd like to do another lap. You are going to be completely demolished. However, you might be a minute or two faster. I think that is a possibility.
Yeah, that's better than the alternative we talked about. And look, as we started to get eyes on this course and the course changes, I think it became clearer that, it's not going to be what we thought. It looks like the extra mile could not. As people started to kind of explore it, look at it a little bit more, consider some of where these new routes were going, especially County Road. I think it's 136 that cuts off the single track. That seems to be a big bonus there for people looking to gain back time. And the turnaround at Columbine. I think those two combined seem to have added up to this thing that says, yeah, faster times are on the table.
Yeah, and I think we need to make sure we tip our hats to Mike Milley, who has been, I don't know if he's the one who spearheaded these changes or if it was something that was a collaborative effort, but I think the Leadville Race Series took the changes that needed to happen for safety and the wave starts that I think needed to happen for safety, figured out some course changes and came up with something that instead of making it more difficult for people to get their gold, their 12-hour buckle or 9-hour buckle or whatever they're after, to have essentially the same probable chances and maybe even a tiny bit more. We'll have to see. Saturday is going to be interesting in more new ways than one.
Yeah, look, folks, it's Tuesday night. We're recording this. So anything could happen. There's still some, uncertainties about what's going to happen in the race. We want you to monitor our social accounts and all the other usual stuff, the Leadville Race Series, a website, our social accounts, the participants page for updates. We'll shuttle those out. If we hear something from Mike Melley or something from the LRS, or we go out and find something ourselves, there's pinch points around Twin Lakes that may become an issue that may need to be sorted out. Maybe there's some detail about how they're going to manage that. We've actually not been told exactly where Twin Lakes, as of tonight, Tuesday night, where Twin Lakes alternate's going to be. We have a general idea that it's going to be on that main road that leads you up to Columbine. That's probably where they'll put it. So just monitor our social media accounts for any late updates regarding the race.
Yep, we're still learning stuff. It's a dynamic situation, but honestly, very exciting. It's been, with the year gap between races and these changes, I don't remember a time when I've been more excited for this race.
Yeah, it's good to be here. And of course, we have wave starts too to have fun with too from the get-go. So that'll be fun to see how those go off as well.
Now I want to talk for a second about the way we do sponsorship for this show, the way we do our ad reads. Hadi and I do things a little different than most podcasts. frankly use every single product that we have as sponsors for the show every single day. So stick with us for a couple minutes. I want to talk about each of them just because I think they're pretty amazing. I am really proud of our podcast sponsorship lineup. First one, of course, our title sponsor for the show, Floyd's of Leadville. I use their recovery protein mix every single ride. I use a 50 milligram capsule to help me sleep every single night. So Floyd's sort of is, it's with me every single day in a couple of ways. If you haven't tried it yet, please do. floydsofleadville.com. Check out code FATTY, gets you 15% off. Next one, Shimano. My Epic Hardtail, Lisa's Epic Hardtail, my single speed, Lisa's single speed, my shoes, my saddle, all of them. Shimano or one of the Shimano companies. The fact is, I could ride anything. And at other times, I have ridden a lot of different things. There is just nothing like a Shimano drivetrain. There is nothing like Shimano braking. My Griffin saddle is my favorite saddle I have ever owned. Every single time I go mountain biking, whether I am on one bike or another, I am on Shimano. So just, check out the best bikes and component company there is, bike.shimano.com. DNA Cycling, next one. It was actually in Leadville, Hottie, that I was unpacking all of my stuff. I bring a lot of stuff. You've seen how I load up the truck. It's like we're the Beverly Hillbillies moving here. But I brought 5 jerseys, and as I unpacked them, I noticed every single one of them is a DNA Cycling jersey that I brought with me. Now at home, I have more than 150 jerseys. This is not on purpose. It just kind of happened over years. And the 5 I brought, all DNA. That isn't an accident. They are the most comfortable, best looking jerseys around, and they have great matching socks. You're a sock guy, So DNAcycling.cc. Check them out. Get your own jersey design. It's not too early to start thinking about 2022, folks. Finally, well, no, not finally, but Envy, wheels, cockpit, posts, spare wheel sets for all 4 bikes, all Envy. I have been, as an experiment, using a set of their gravel wheels as my mountain biking wheels, including in some really rough stuff at home in Moab, in Cortez, Colorado. And they have held up better than any wheels that I have ever owned. My M5s are also incredible. I wouldn't put Lisa on anything else. And I am happy to say that our daughter, Mel Rollins, is also riding with Envy this year. So very, very cool stuff. Check them out, envy.com. And finally, the feed. One of the points I'm going to be making later is that the Leadville 100 is an eating contest disguised as a race, a note that I've stolen from my good friend Kenny and have sort of taken on as my own. But I've been training for training for this race. Every single ride I do, I've been using Martins, I've been using Goo Roctane, I've been trying Enervite, which is a pretty interesting product, and I've of course been taking the feed formulas, their vitamin and supplement curated for athletes. It's been fantastic. Check them out at thefeed.com/Leadville. Get yourself set up with a 15% discount, and be sure to say hi to Brandon Dykstra-House, who has been our contact when you come join us this Thursday at our pre-race ride. That guy, he's going to do a sub-8 this year. You watch. That dude is fast.
Yeah, we want to thank all of our listeners too who have already supported these sponsors. We hear from them. We hear back from them often that you have. We want to thank you for that. We also want to thank you for just listening to our ad reads. I mean, we do actually put a lot of effort into them. We try to make them stories and part of what we're trying to get done here at the LT100. And all of these sponsors play a big part of that. So again, thank you for supporting them, and thank you for listening to every time we have something to say about these great sponsors. Yeah. Good to have them.
Absolutely. And you sort of between Lisa's finishes, Hottie's finishes, and my Leadville finishes, we have 43 finishes altogether. I tallied them up earlier today. The fact is, if the 3 of us, who, is sort of a family group of friends, podcasters, like these products, and all 3 of us do, there's probably a pretty good reason between our 43 finishes. Support our sponsors. Let them know Fatty and Hottie sent you.
In addition to everything else going on in the show, this is a top 10 episode. Everyone loves a countdown, right? I mean, David Letterman made a living off top 10 countdown, Sydney. We don't do them in reverse order. We're going to do them counting upwards. So we have kind of a top 10 list here of things to remember as you count down to that shotgun start at 6th and Harrison. So here's your top 10 things to remember for race day at the LT100.
All right. My first one, and I don't think these are in order of priority. These are in the order I believe that Hadi and I thought of them. But the first one is, and with all due respect to Ken Klober, sometimes you are not better than you think you are. Sometimes you can do less than you think you could. And that is okay. The fact is, you are going to feel bad on the Columbine climb. This does not mean anything except for that you are above 11,500 feet. You are going to suffer every little bit of miles 60 through 105. Remember that number 105. 100 is not the length of this race. This is what you paid for. All right. When you are hating this race and you are hating the fact that you made a decision to do this and your demons are telling you what a fool you are, remember, this is just the way the race is. And you paid to see if you could push through this, see it through. If you can, see it through.
And the next point here, the next thing to remember kind of dovetails off that. And that while this race matters, it doesn't matter so much that you should let it define you, that it makes up who you are. It's not your identity in the end, or it doesn't define your value as a person. It will give you stories for a lifetime. And Fatty and I have talked about this before. When you finish this thing, whether it be once or 23 or 24, I can't even remember how many times you're up to now.
Working on 23.
23. What happens is this race stays a part of your daily conversation. I mean, I can hardly think of a day where I don't mention the word Leadville. That's what this place does to you. But on the same token, you got to remember who you are. You're going to be the same person you came here as, like the same values you had, the same person you are. Don't let it define you as the person you are.
Yeah. This is one that was important to me, partially because as someone who's done this race so many times, it is easy to let this race define me perhaps a little too much. And with the last couple of years, with the big pandemic year in the rearview mirror, there were things that were more important to me than this race a lot of the days. There were a lot of concerns. I had a lot of worries, and I think that is true for a lot of people. And sometimes we had to take something like a fun race and put it on the back burner. If you had to do that and you are here thinking, you know what, I am not as fast as I would like to be. I am not going to finish with the time that I was hoping I would finish. Let me tell you, I am like that too. I am not looking at my fastest time ever. I am looking at a celebration of the fact that a bunch of us are getting together and either witnessing or participating in a big bike ride that we could not do 1 year ago. And that is pretty awesome. So celebrate that. Be happy with whatever happens during the day. Keep the rubber side down. So the next one. This one I mentioned before. It's an eating contest and it's disguised as a race. Let me tell you, there are no seconds you are going to save by postponing eating that are going to pay the price, that are going to be worth the price that you're going to pay later. Hadi, I've told this story so many times, but it is just so important, so true. You are going to hate the idea of eating as you go up Columbine. You are going to hate the idea of eating as you go up Powerline. It's just is not going to seem easy to do. It is not going to sound appetizing. Goo or Martins or whatever you're drinking are going to sound terrible, in spite of the fact that you've used them, for hours and hours during training. If you don't eat at the rate that you've promised yourself that you would, and that has worked for you, you are going to pay a huge cascading price later. You're going to get into a hole. You are going to be unable to eat because your stomach is like, you know what? I don't like food anymore. I've decided I don't like food. Don't let that happen. Stay on your eating target and make yourself eat, especially when you don't want to.
Yeah, it's an eating and drinking contest. I think you've used that phrase too before. Drinking is the yin and yang of this too. Remember to hydrate. In fact, you want to start hydrating now if you're listening to this, or hopefully before you've even started your travels to Leadville, because what you've got up here, folks, is a lot of evaporation. And it happens when the evaporation occurs. You'll notice it when you boil water. It just evaporates quicker. Where'd all that water go? Oatmeal cooks funny, rice cooks funny, and water evaporates off you faster too. And that's why it's an eating and drinking contest. So remember the drinking too as you're suffering up Columbine or wherever you are on the race course. You got to start early and often with the drinking as well. Yep. This one I love, and I'll have to give credit to you, Fatty. You penciled this one in. It's a great one. No strategy switch ups based on overheard conversations, no game time epiphanies. Execute on the plan you have. Folks, you've heard athletes, professional athletes use these cliches all the time. Oh, we just stuck to our game plan and it worked out for us. We did the work and it paid off. We believed in ourselves. And here we are, we're the victors now. Those are all those sports cliches you've probably heard in the past. They apply here too. There's a reason why. Those athletes may sound bored and like they're repeating the same thing over and over. They're actually not. That stuff actually works. If you have a game plan, you have to commit to it, to use a Ken Klober thing, commit and execute that plan and stick to it. Obviously, things can go wrong on the course and you might have to dance around things or fix a flat tire or deal with a problem or adapt. That can happen. But Fatty's point here about having a game plan and sticking to it is really important to a good day.
I wrote this down because this is one that I've learned the hard way. Like everyone, and maybe more than most, I love wandering around the streets of Leadville before the race, and I hear lots of smart people talking about what they're planning to do. And I hear things and I go, well, that seems like a better plan than mine. and I have done it so many times. I'm like, okay, I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to go ahead and put a 2.1 tire on my front wheel because that seems like that is going to be a little bit faster, or it's going to roll a little smoother than what I have, the 2.25 that I've been riding with the entire season and I'm good at riding with, right? I'm making changes based on what other people have done. Don't do that unless you're riding at 50 psi, in which case lower it down to 20 right away. Okay, that's one you can change. Yes. But no, you've been riding, you've been training, you've been eating, you've got a fuel plan. Stick with it. Okay, this is me giving you permission to not switch anything up from here on out. Execute the plan you have. Okay, this next one is a little bit easier. Number 5, look up and remember to appreciate the moment. This is so important. It's race day and the temptation is to look at nothing but back wheels and your GPS. And don't be a stem starer. As you go up Sugarloaf, look around. It's morning. It is beautiful. You are in an extraordinary place, doing this thing that you have been dreaming about for many of us 2 years now, and it's happening. Don't forget to soak that in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going up Sugarloaf, I'm a fan like you of that climb. Look to your left, folks. If you haven't been up before, Turquoise Lake is down there. Hadi took a swim down there today, by the way. Loved it. I love that spot. I would just say this caveat. Try to look up and enjoy the moment when you're not going like over 20 miles an hour.
Yes.
Like if you're bombing down Columbine, try to look at the trail ahead of you. Funny thing today, though, we were out on a family hike, and Blake Rollins, who's going to be at Pipeline for us, mentioned, I guess, that they're off the Keevens climb. There's mining or old mine. What's going on up there? Stuff we as racers never see out there.
That's right. And this is something that on our Thursday ride, I will be pointing out to folks. There is old abandoned, from the 1800s mining equipment from Leadville's history that you never see during the race because, of course, you were just looking straight ahead of you. I'm not telling you to look at it during race day, but there is so much incredible history in this town. If you ever have a chance, either before the race or can stick around after the race, go and take a look around at the mining history that is Leadville's. It is really pretty exquisite. Oh, and go and take a look at the place where you and I went hiking to earlier today, the old Interlaken resort on the... Which side of Twin Lakes is that? I'm
south side. I think we were on the south side. Yeah.
Should have brought a compass. Anyway, look it up. It's on the Leadville.com website, and it is worth the 2.5 mile hike to go take a look.
Just don't do it on race day because you'll be off course.
No.
Way off course. Here's something good. Work together. There are more opportunities for this than we've ever had before to work together. In fact, this is something we heard from some of our guests this season, especially the pros. Working together is a thing at Leadville, and it's one of the defining properties of doing the Leadville race is that you do have an opportunity to work together in this race. Now, working together doesn't always mean bridging up and catching someone. It may mean, hey, looking over your shoulder, there's someone coming. Maybe I let them catch me and I develop a partnership with somebody, an alliance, and we work together to cover some ground. And maybe later, going up a hill or a climb or a columbine or something, you go, okay, that's enough of that. I'm clearly stronger and I'm going to move ahead. But working together is a big deal here. And in particular, Fatty, you can go over some of the places where you like to find this, but obviously coming off power line, you want to start looking right away. In the pipeline section, you want to start shopping for partners in these areas going outbound. And then on the return, again, pipeline is one of those opportunities. You start looking around you and figuring out, okay, can I make a friendship here with somebody for a while?
Yeah, and the single track workaround is a huge one, and the private property workaround is a brand new and really fantastic place to work together. Start early on this, because the people you see probably as soon as when you drop down off of power line outbound, they're the people that you are going to see a lot of the whole rest of the day. Start making alliances, start making partnerships, and the drafting you to do together, I promise, is not going to be a zero-sum game. It's not like you are just stealing their energy. You're taking a turn, they're taking a turn, and you are going to find that you are faster together than either of you would have been alone. All right, next one, drop bags. And this number 7 is so important. Drop bags are the cheapest insurance you are ever going to find. Everyone, if you were not planning to have a drop bag for Columbine Mine, make sure you get one. Others, if you can, whether you have a crew or not, because sometimes for some reason your crew can't be there. And so if you have some lube and a CO2 and a tube, and you have a change of clothes or a windbreaker, this is all stuff that if you don't need during the race, you get back that night or the next day. Get yourself drop bags and have it there. That just in case stuff is really useful. So here's a little bit of details. You'll need to read all of them in the Racer Bible, but you're going to drop your bags off Friday between 11 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. And it is right at the same place where you are picking up your racer packet. It is at the Expo at 113 East 6th Street. Your drop bag stuff needs to be in clear sealed bags, like a big giant gallon Ziploc bag or something like that. You're going to get those back the evening after the race or the next morning, and make sure you check the Race Bible for details.
This is a tip I learned off you. In fact, I previously had not sent a rain jacket up to the top of Columbine until you said, honey, you should probably send a jacket up there. You never know what's going to happen in this race. And so I started sending jackets up to the top of Columbine, never had to use them. Always got them back, which is great, right? It's easy, a no-brainer tip that can really save your day. If your crew's not on hand where you expect them to be, if you get caught in some rain, which can happen here.
Has happened.
Yep, it has happened. Just watch a couple of the Race Across the Sky movies. You can see the hail in action and see a lot of people having problems. Okay, this is, I'll have to take credit for this one because I believe in this and I have a little story about this. Get your bicycle 99% ready after your ride on Thursday.
The one we're doing together.
Right. You don't want to be messing around late into the evening on Friday trying to get your bike to shift right, pumping up tires or changing a tire or
new cassette,
cabling a bike or reprogramming your DIT or what have you. The story I have that relates to this is a buddy of mine who I was going to be pacing. One evening, Friday evening before the race, he decided he was going to try to recenter his brake calipers or lube the pistons in the calipers or something. I don't know. I was in bed and he was downstairs till 10:30 messing with this bike, his race bike. He gets up the next morning. He takes off for the start line before me and I'm still at the house. And 20 minutes later, I hear somebody riding up the driveway and screaming my name. Hottie, hottie, hottie. My front brake doesn't work. It's not a good way to go out and do 105 miles at the Leadville Trail 100. Now, the good news is he had a backup bike. he was trying to ride his hardtail. He had a full suspension cross-country bike, equally as good, that he was able to ride, jump on immediately, and finish the race and get on the podium in his age category. We were actually shooting for something a little higher than podium, like in winning. But in the end, this caused him undue stress. He really didn't need that in his life, in his race. And he really didn't be messing with brakes that were actually working well into the night before the race. So get your bike ready by Thursday night. If you need to do something Friday, like lube the chain or something like that, check the air pressure. You're going to do that probably the morning of. But maybe a few, I would say lube the chain at worst on Friday is about the only thing you should be doing. You want your bike ready Thursday night.
Yep. After we do this ride on 9 a.m. on Thursday, I'm going to be taking my bike into Brian Fedema at Cycles of Life. I have made an appointment with him to do all of that for me because you've seen what kind of mechanic I am. One way or the other, get your bike so that it is perfect and you don't have to sweat it on Friday. You can take care of your food and your drop bags and the pre-race meeting and all of those things and not worry about your bike being as great as it can be on the day before. Okay, speaking of taking care of things the day before, if you have a kitchen or a way to otherwise eat in the night before, you should. In our recent podcast with Payson and McKelvin, he talked about that. I mean, twice he, tried new things and was just miserable, almost had a race scotched because of it. You don't want to do that. Eat something very normal for you, something that is your comfort food, not as in necessarily a big pile of mashed potatoes, but something that you have had many times and it felt good the next day. That is what you should be eating. Keep it simple. Don't experiment. Have a celebratory dinner, afterward if you want and be as fancy as you like. But the night before, try to eat in if you can. Try to eat simple no matter what. And kind of use the same approach for breakfast. Have that laid out and know, so you don't wake up in the morning of the race and go, I don't have any eggs. And I was planning on a scrambled egg burrito. Make sure that everything for breakfast is out and ready to go.
Yeah. That I have pretty much an iron gut.
Yeah, you
when
can
it comes
eat
to
anything.
things. But I do feel it when I come up here. And one of the things I feel initially when I come up here is a little loss of appetite. Just when I'm running around, not on race day and so much, but when I'm just kind of out and about. So you might feel a little loss of appetite, maybe a little nausea too when you come up this high. So you want to go with tried and true things, especially the night before. Don't go with some new pasta that you haven't had before, layered with fettuccine or Alfredo sauce or something like that. Try to go with the things you've eaten before that you digest well. For breakfast, one of the things that works great if you want to lay something out, many cyclists, a lot of cyclists, their go-to is oats. Steel cut oats or regular oats can be soaked or cooked the night before and then stored. And all you have to do is heat them up the next morning. Even bacon. If you like bacon before you go out for a ride, that actually can be cooked the night before and then nuked real quick. And then you're off and running. You don't have to be swimming around in the kitchen like, where are my oatmeal and where's my pancake syrup or what have you. You've got that all ready to go. Again, this goes back to the pre-planning thing, right? I mean, you want to have a plan. Your plan should include your meals, especially those last few meals leading up to race morning.
Yeah. You've said many times on this podcast, food is mood. And I think on race morning, the mood you want to go for is calm. So something that is regular and normal, something that will make you feel ready for a pretty exciting start line.
All right. More on feeding because we love this topic. And that has to do with the feeds on race day. And this hasn't to do so much with what you're eating at those stops, but how you make those stops. And this is something I've said before. Make your feed stops pit stops. You want to do these F1 style. I've used this analogy, I don't know how many times in this podcast, but program out your feeds with your crew 2 days before, or at the very least on Friday. Know what you want on every feed stop. Your crew should know what you want. They should know what pocket everything goes in. Do it in an orderly fashion. Practice if you want. I mean, practice is not a bad idea. If you want to do a bottle hand up, go out on the street with your crew and do a couple bottle hand ups, get a feel for each other. Yeah. It's a little different on the dirt, obviously, because it's bumpier if you're going to do hand ups. But again, you want to have programmed feeds. As you pull into the Twin Lakes area or pipeline or what have you, that feeder should know exactly what you want, where you want it, what you want while you're straddling the bike. If you want your chain lube, what have you, your pit stops, or rather your feed stops, should be pit stops.
Yeah. And I feel super lucky to have you and Mrs. Hottie crewing for me. I know in 2019, we had a pre-race meeting where you essentially interviewed me for what I wanted while Mrs. Hottie took very meticulous notes. And that made a big difference for me before I ever saw you at the aid station, because I knew that you knew precisely what I had in mind and that there wouldn't be mix-ups or, oh, I thought that. Okay, final one. A bonus tip. I know we said there were going to be 10. Of course, we're going to give you an extra. Some course reminders. And these are just a few things from a few little things to remember as you are doing the course. First one, Keevan's outbound. We're going to do this on the Thursday race. I feel like we've mentioned this, or Thursday ride. I've mentioned this maybe 1,000 times, but it is 1.1 miles from when you begin climbing Keevan's to when you make that sharp left turn. It feels like you are out there forever. It is not forever. It is 1.1 very steep miles, and so it's not forever, but it is early in the race and you are eager and excited. And perhaps because of the wave starts, you've got a free run ahead of you and you are free to fly. So you don't have anyone holding you back. Let me tell you, it is not worth it. It is not worth the matches that you are tempted to burn 7 miles into the race. Don't burn a match now when that you are really going to want 70 miles into this course.
Yeah, before the mass start, from about red back, everyone was kind of forced into a certain pace as they went up Keevan's. That's probably going to change. You're probably going to find more space, more room to operate in there, and you're going to have an opportunity to burn matches. But this goes back to something we talked with the Trainer Road guys about pacing. Having a pacing strategy that needs to be implemented immediately as you start putting out an effort. And right here on Keevan's is where you want to do it. You want to know, okay, I'm here on Keevan's, I got room to operate, but should I accelerate or not? Or can I put it in the zone where I need to be and start my pacing strategy now? And I think the strategy should be the latter there.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Next one, Hagerman, going up. It is better than it has been in a long, long time. For the first time that I can remember, you are not going to be having to hunt from the left side of the road to the right, looking for places where there are not, pretty severe washboards. It is smooth. I'm just astonished. It's fantastic. And it's a great opportunity because of this to work with people. These are the people you're going to see probably as you get to the bottom of Powerline, the people that you see as you make that run up to Columbine. And then, all of it once again, start working with people, start building your alliances early.
Yeah. And then this is where your eating and drinking contest comes into play again. You come off Keevan's and you hit Turquoise Lake Road. That's a fast descent. It's a little hard to, a little sketchy to be reaching in the back pocket or what have you and grabbing food. You can obviously drink in there. So it's better once you kind of bottom out there at May Queen, you start climbing the pavement, you're going to start eating there. And then again, you're on Hagerman. Before it was bumpy and again, a little rough to kind of eat in that area and you're juggling around and trying to swallow things, but you definitely want to try to eat there because you're going to make the left on the Sugarloaf, and that's no place to really try and drink or either eat too much, maybe drink, but not eat too much. So again, the eating and drinking contest, I think, is playing out on Hagerman. Yeah.
You make a great point. Sugarloaf is hard to eat anything and honestly to even grab a bottle as you are going up. So maybe do any eating and drinking that you would have done on Sugarloaf outbound early while you were on Hagerman. So start a little early because chances are you're going to really be working hard as you go up Sugarloaf. Okay, let's talk about Powerline outbound. On this, all I have to say is don't ruin your day. I said that there is a good line on going down Powerline. That doesn't mean that it's not mountain biking. That doesn't mean that you can just go ahead and put away your brakes and see if you can break the sound barrier. You are not going to successfully hit your goal for the day with this segment. However, you can ruin your day. You can hit any of thousands of chunky rocks and pinch flat, or break your rim or do something much more injurious to yourself. Take a little bit of care, get to the bottom of this very critical descent and be ready to roll, and healthy and happy and still doing good. You can be fast, fine. Just don't be unsafe.
Yeah, as descents go at the LT100, this is your first technical test of the day. It's okay if someone passes you. Don't freak out. You probably will get passed. I mean, you're not going to there's only a few of the fastest people going downhill at Leadville. So it's fine. Better off picking a line and a safe line than dumping it going here, because this is very early in your day and it'd be a bad place to have to pull out. Also, a little reminder about the sunlight here and the dust. If it is dry, it's going to be dusty. The sun is quite low and comes through the trees and can glare right in your eyes. So just be ready for that. The light's a little weird on the upper section of pipeline, or yes, power line rather, that early in the morning.
And let me add on to that. For those of you who are really terrific descenders, and I've ridden with many people who are fantastic descenders, please remember to be gracious and to be extra vocal for as you pass the folks who are not as great of descenders. Remember that everyone's good at different things. Be sure to be pass them safely and to give them some encouragement. Remember, you are not really racing any given person in this race. You are racing a clock just like them. So encourage, regardless of who you are and what you're good at, encourage others. Let's make sure that everyone crosses this finish line happy and safe.
Now we are on to the pipeline section, and we've heard at least a couple of our pros mention this portion of the course and this point during the episodes this season. That is, this section they find to be one of the most crucial sections in the whole race. Like, this is the area where you can team up, work together with a group, and make the most out of what I think on paper looks like, oh, here's an area where I just ride from the bottom of Power Line on over to Twin Lakes. But this is really can be a racy section for you if you find the right opportunity and the right people to work with.
That's right. So find the people, look ahead, look behind. And remember, this is more or less a third of the race in distance. It is not something that is just linking up Power Line to Columbine. It is an important part of the race, and it is a portion where if you go too hot, you can blow yourself up. If you go too easy, you can lose time that you really need to put in the bank as you get to either of these iconic climbs that bookend the pipeline section. So don't overlook the importance of this. Work with people. And like we have said a few times during this episode, there are many more opportunities to work together in this segment than there ever have been before.
Mm-hmm. And this segment really we're talking about is not just the dirt section, but it extends from the bottom of Power Line. I would say clear to the end of the single track would be, or to the beginning of the single track would be this section where you can the race really changes. It takes on a whole new dynamic.
I was going to extend that all the way to the base of Columbine, Hadi. Okay. With the new reroute around the private property, there's new working together opportunities that weren't there before. So in my mind, the pipeline section is now a little bit longer, and there are more opportunities to work together than there ever have been.
All right, Columbine, and we've talked about burning matches on I can't remember which episode, the Payson episode, when and where to burn matches. And I had my little matchbook analogy through all this. Look, if you've gone to the bottom of Columbine, you haven't burned a match yet, feel free right here going up Columbine to put down some effort. Because at some point you do want to dip into your reserves or dip into your energy systems and go ahead and use some of that. And if you've gotten into the bottom of Columbine in great shape and you're feeling good, and you can clean some time. You can beat the clock here going up and down Columbine.
Columbine is such an iconic climb in all of mountain biking. And if you, I would say it is almost impossible to not burn some matches as you were going up this. The matches may not do as much as they would in altitude with more oxygen, but they will still make a difference. Don't, I want to add here, be disappointed or be concerned when you get to the top of the easy part of Columbine. And by easy, I mean non-technical, when you get to the goat trail part of Columbine and you suddenly find that you just are out of breath and having a rough time eating, and you just don't have the power that you used to, that is, as we've said many times before, not your fault. That is the lack of oxygen. And don't feel like you have bonked. You are just living with the effects of a very low oxygen environment.
Yeah, goofy things happen above 11,000 feet. No matter who you are, it changes, and it changes pretty quick, too. It's pretty dramatic. Okay, more matches to burn. Well, obviously, a lot of folks say the race really begins power line inbound, or rather, power line inbound, correct? Actually, from the pipeline feed inbound is when you start looking for this last big section of the race that's just crucial. And you better have some matches here because you're going to need them as you're headed for power line. Right. No matter how you get a power line, whether you're walking, whether you're crawling, or whether you're riding, you're going to need some matches to burn here, and you should feel free to use them too.
Almost all of us are going to be using the rest of our book of matches as we go at Powerline. And most of us are going to be hiking some of it and riding, hopefully, most of it. I would say don't put yourself into the reddest part of your red zone trying to ride something on Powerline. That is when cramps happen, at least for me, Hadi. When I think maybe one time in my life have I cleaned the entirety of Powerline during a race, and I was making a point of it. It was 2019. And I had a great day on that part of the race. I other times have tried to do that, and instead of cleaning it, wound up in cramps, both hamstrings, and just crouched over, unable to even walk from the pain. So don't go so deep into the red that you are unable to do anything at all. Burn some matches, but don't burn all of them, and don't burn them all together.
Yeah, and I know it's tempting to ride that lower section now because it's smoother.
Because it's clean.
All the ruts are gone. But you guys got to remember what's ahead of you, too.
It's steep.
It gets steep and rough and kind of nasty up there, and the struggles are real as you're trying to crest Powerline. And, of course, head for Sugarloaf, which is a bumpy ride all the way back down to Hagerman and the pavement, which takes us to our next point, and that is the sneaky hard May Queen to Carter Aid section. The pain in my rear every time I've done this thing, the spot where I've cried out loud for somebody to help me, somebody pull me, and it's just a paved climb, for God's sakes.
It is. It's, and just in sarcasm quotes, right? Because it is, so you turn off the Hagerman dirt onto a 1+ mile descent to May Queen, and then it is 3.6 miles up to the Carter turn. I'm doing this from memory, Hadi. You know how much I love this race. So it is 3.6 miles till you turn off at the Carter neutral aid station. And this is the point I wanted to make. You are not done climbing yet. Okay, everyone focuses so myopically at this Carter aid station where you turn off of the pavement. Hooray, I'm finally off this pavement in this very difficult climb, very late in the race. You have a half mile. I marked this yesterday when I wrote it. You have a half mile more of climbing, and it's not all easy climbing before it turns down and starts rolling for a while. So don't use that as your end of climb finish line mentality. Be ready as soon as you make that turn. Maybe grab a Coke or a dash of salt or whatever it takes to get you going. You're going to keep working for a while. And even after that, until you start turning down down Keevens, which is super fun right now. By the way, it is clean and fun and so fast right now. But there are climbs, more, rolling climbs all the way leading up to it. And of course you've got the boulevard, right?
The boulevard. Yeah. And another spot you want to have one more to strike, I think, in the boulevard. Mm-hmm. You've got the ditch section, the section I call the ditch. That's old railroad tracks that run through there.
Oh, that's super muddy right now.
It's still muddy. I took a little peek down it today, but I couldn't see very far.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
And as of, I think, Monday, it looked like you could, ride up and need a snorkel. It was very deep. So I don't know what it's going to be like on race day, but expect to cross the finish line muddy is my expectation.
And typically you have to do some lane changing down there, like some moving around. There's because all the water coming off of Leadville City proper is headed down to that ditch, and it can gather down there even when we haven't had a rain the night before. So you do a little work down there, but that left-hand turn out of the ditch, oh man, you're thinking, where's Marilee? Where is she with that medal? And staring you in the face is this. I've never looked at the ascension there, what percentage we're looking at there, but it feels like 40% or something. I know it's not.
It's a 100% climb. I don't know. It is very rocky for one thing. And to me, it looked like you want to stay on the left side of this little pitch right now. That is where the best line is, where it's not going to make it any less steep, but it will make it a little bit cleaner. The nice thing is I'm not sure how far it is. It feels much further than I'm sure it actually is. Maybe 100 feet, 200 feet. It smooths out a little bit. And at that point, if you have any more matches after this little grunt of a pitch right at the bottom of the boulevard, burn them all because you are so close to home.
Yeah. And then you've got, the rest of the dirt up there, which we've heard is actually a little nicer itself these days.
It's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Smooth and fast.
And then you hit the pavement on one little paved climb that will hurt. Yeah. And then you'll see the red curb.
Everything hurts at that point. It wouldn't matter what it is. But yeah, the fact is you're going to smell the barn so strongly, and you are going to be so excited when you see, before you see the red light or the red carpet, you see the stoplight, and you see the people, and perhaps you even hear the announcer on the PA. And oh, Lord, what a feeling. It is so amazing. And the fact is, it's something that you've earned, and so savor that moment. But maybe go ahead and burn one last match if you got it, so that you cross the finish line feeling completely beat.
All right, so 11 tips, not 10. Tape them on your top tube. You can read them while you're racing if you like. Just don't do it while you're going downhill. Fatty and Hotties, quick 11 for you as you head to the LT100, the second Saturday in August, your worst and your best nightmare ever. All right, we're going to kind of circle back to, I guess, what was episode 0 or episode 1 of this season?
0.
Episode 0, right. You folks may have remembered we started off with an episode that took a look at an interesting contest that, I wonder if I would have jumped in way back when I first started looking at this race. It was called The Ground Up.
Yeah, from the ground up, I definitely would have entered it. A little video contest where folks who had taken up mountain biking during the pandemic year essentially made their case for why they should be given the golden ticket, a bike, and entry into Leadville, and some coaching, and a trainer, and food, and really everything that you need to do this race, except for the legs and lungs you need to actually do the work.
So they picked 3 racers, and one of them is Enzo Mascarella. We love his name, right?
Yes.
We had really fun just saying his name through the whole interview. He's a first-time racer that reminds us of ourselves the first time we did the LT100, and a lot like our listeners, in fact. One of 3 winners in the From the Ground Up contest.
Yeah, he's got a lot of advantages that we just enumerated. Having coaching with Lee McCormack, for crying out loud. Boy, I would have loved to have some skills classes from him back in the day, or now for that matter. A bike, a trainer, coaching, mentoring, entry in the Camp of Champions. So all 3 of these entrants, or of these racers, have seen the course, which is a huge advantage. Mm-hmm.
So Enzo's gotten all of this, but of course he still has to do the race itself. And as the online series tracking the From the Ground Up airs the first episode, we're talking with him about his hopes, his fears at racing the Leadville 100.
Enzo, welcome to the show. Here's a question for you. Are you ready?
Yes. As ready as I can be. Yeah. The time doesn't stop. So wherever I'm at is where I'm at.
That is way more philosophical than I ever am. My answer is always 100% no. I am never ready. So you, I think you've obviously have been preparing for this. tell us what you are hoping your day is going to be like when you were racing the Leadville 100.
I'm hoping that race day is, as smooth as it can be. So minimizing any like waiting around or stuff like that. And I hope everything just kind of like happens and flows into each other. So, morning, get up, have a big breakfast, have some time to sit around and kind of focus the mind before getting into the corral. And then during the day, it's just going to be go, go, go as much as I can, as hard as I can, as fast as I can. And we'll see what time we finish.
Enzo, what was your athletic experience, background like coming into this thing? We know that I think to get into this contest, if you will, you had to have no, or literally almost no bike experience. So what was your athletic experience like coming into this?
Coming directly into the contest, it was zero. I had bought a single speed off of Craigslist back in February at the time and was just kind of riding around randomly. No data, no nothing. It was just like pick a direction, go for 30 minutes, like turn around and come back, just riding around New York. Previous to that, it was, high school soccer and some cross country stuff. But yeah, no competitive sports since high school. So it had been a while since I was physical in a competitive sense. Yeah.
So there's been a real transformation for you. So where have you, in terms of ability, strength, training, where have you gone from and to?
In just terms of just general working out and stuff like that, the job that I have requires a lot of travel. So I would try to take advantage every once in a while to like hit the gym at the hotels and stuff. So just shy of the last year, I was trying to get more serious about that, kind of forming somewhat of a healthy diet, but not doing such a great job about it. And once Ryan and Alexi approached me with this opportunity and, I was chosen, I just doubled down on everything, started going to the gym, changed my diet completely, and just got serious about being healthy and having functional strength and mobility to be able to like take on this challenge.
Had you ever heard of the Leadville Trail 100 prior to this challenge?
No, I had driven through Leadville randomly because we were the company that I'm working for. We had a job in Aspen at the time, and because of the wildfires, we drove from Denver to Aspen and on Independence Pass, and we passed, literally past Leadville, went right through it. I was like, oh, that's a cool little spot. And then when it popped up again, in the future, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been there. I know what that place looks like. And yeah.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I randomly drove through Leadville with my wife, and we're like, well, that's a neat town. Maybe we'll come back someday. And now I go back every summer. So you never know what can happen at Leadville if you just pass through. How do you do, Enzo, with elevation? It's kind of a high place there at Leadville. How do you do?
I've been there for the training camp, and I was okay for the most part. Once, we were riding and we got up to, the high part above tree line, things slowed down a little bit. I think they do for everybody. I wasn't completely lost or like, but yeah, definitely felt it. But I didn't feel sick or uncomfortable at any point. I did feel that, the capacities cut in half, but it wasn't super detrimental that I didn't know what was going on.
You, like a lot of people, are doing this race for the first time. Unlike a lot of people, you have a camera on you and a magnifying glass over you for the entirety of this. How are you dealing with the pressure of knowing that there are going to be thousands of people watching a documentary about your experience racing the Leadville 100 and getting ready for it?
Well, thankfully, it's not live, so I have some time to to mentally process through it. But the support that I've had with Ryan and Alexi and all the other coaches and sponsors, my teammates, Roberta and Shauna, that has helped tremendously. Avery and Ian are two of the the camera guys. Trafford also was on board for a section of it, and they've all become really good friends. So it's you're hanging out with somebody that has a camera versus having a camera in your face, which makes the process of actually filming a lot less intimidating. As far as people seeing what happens, it's a document is how I'm looking at it. It is what it is. Hopefully it portrays it, truly and honestly, and people get to see what it's like, for the first time, for three novices.
And I mean, the three of you really represent probably, you could be any of hundreds of people who will be towing the line on the 14th of August this year. And the great thing with this contest is, of course, you've been given a lot of advantages that most of those racers have not. You've got a brand new bike, you've had coaching, you've had skills camp from Lee McCormack, for crying out loud. That is a contest winning of its own. What of all of those things would you say has been the biggest advantage, the thing that is going to make the most difference to you as you race the Leadville 100 this year?
Just to be as honest as possible, without Lee, I would not be able to ride the bike. I'm terrified of going downhill, and I had zero clue of how to handle a bike on anything that was different than asphalt. So, Lee with his, with his time and patience and his knowledge has allowed me to ride the bike the way that it's supposed to be. Maybe I'm not, or I know that I'm not at the caliber of some more experienced people, but like just the little bit of time that I spent with him has made me 1000% more confident in my abilities on the bike. And then obviously, having the equipment, having the support of all these people, because without it, I don't think there'd be a way for me to do this, at least not in a year or two, because, you have to get these things in place to ride the race. You can't ride it on a single speed, so.
Well, actually you can.
Well,
I meant, a single speed road bike.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, we love Lee McCormack here too.
Yeah.
Hinge at the hips, right, Enzo? Got to keep your hinge, get in your attack position, get that outside.
Heavy feet, light hands.
You got it, buddy. You remember all that stuff. At least on the bike handling side, you're going to be just fine. Don't get in over your head. Read the trail ahead of you. Leah's got the goods. That guy knows what he's talking about. We love him here too. You have a lot to keep on your in your mind. All racers do this race. We're all trying to juggle all these thoughts. I got to remember to pace myself up Columbine. I got to remember to get my feet at Twin Lakes. Oh, what if I blow going up Powerline on the road? There's just a lot of things stirring in your head. So tell us, what are the top 2 or 3 things you're trying to keep at the forefront of your mind come race day?
It's making sure that I talk to myself the entire time in a positive way, keeping my own cheerleading up, making sure no matter what's going on, I'm still feeling good and letting myself know that I feel good. And then the other thing is, just making sure I'm eating and drinking, keeping the nutrition in, and making sure that's a consistent action throughout the day.
You're going to have a lot of cheerleaders out there on the course. That is one of the things about the Leadville 100 is you do have people, it's going to be a little different this year than most, just because of the whole COVID thing. Yet there will still be people out there, and they're going to be excited for you no matter what. I am interested in, what is your eating plan? How much are you eating, and how often? What are you going to try to do?
So we're very lucky to work with the Infinite Loop as a nutrition partner. And so I think it's as simple as it can be. I have to put a bottle down every hour and just make sure that I do that. And everything's been pre-formulated. And, so since the beginning of this, all of training has been with Infinite products. So I'm used to it now. I know that there's no surprises that are going to come on race day. I just have to follow what I've been doing. And that worked for most of my long rides. And during camp, that's all I had. I'll have a gel or two in the pocket just in case, and a few other things just in case. But for the most part, it's going to be just the loop mix.
What are you hoping to cross the finish line? And at what time? And what's going to be the feeling? What's the mental image you've got for this?
Initially, when the guys approached me with, the question of like, are you going to finish? I said, yes. And they said, how long is it going to take you? And I said, under 9, because I want a big buckle. That's a super high mark to try to hit. I think I could finish. I'm pretty confident in my abilities to finish. So I know that'll happen. As whatever's in it under my control, I'm gonna finish the race. But yeah, it would be amazing to do sub 9. But I'll be happy showing up and just getting out on the course, because all of this has been such a wonderful experience. And even through the hardest moments, it's still been so wonderful. So
sub 9 would be an amazing finish, but I will guarantee you this. No matter what your finish time. And I've tracked you closely enough that I'm confident you were going to finish as well. But whatever that time is, whether it is 8:35 or 12:35, it's going to feel really amazing when you cross the finish line. There is no finish line like the Leadville 100. Good luck, Enzo, and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Enzo for talking with us, and let's say it, good luck to him and to his teammates as they each make a big attempt at the Leadville 100. And good luck to all of you, right? Have fun. Please be fast. Please be safe. And please be nice to each other. It has been a bad year and a half for a lot of us. For me, this sort of marks a starting line of normal. I'm going to really enjoy Saturday, and I'm going to talk with a lot of folks about, as we are riding, when I can, about the fact that we are doing something really big and exciting and hard, and how awesome it is.
And I'll be checking all of you out from probably Twin Lakes alternate feed and screaming at you. And I may have the tape recorder going, so scream as you ride by or ring your bell or what have you. Like we said earlier in the show, there may be more updates coming after the show posts.
It could happen.
So follow our social media accounts, check them often, check the Leadville Race Series Facebook page, the participants page, the Leadville Race Series website for further updates. There could be more things to come even before the racer meeting. So make sure you check those. We are on social media, as we say. Fatty is on Twitter at Fat Cyclist, so watch his account for any updates. Hottie, me, I am on Instagram at Michael Houghton. For the time being, I've just been posting beauty shots around Leadville, but if something comes up, I'll try to post it there. Of course, we're both on that Leadville 100 mountain bike participants page. And if you want to have a regular conversation with us or other Leadville racers, join the Slack channel. You'll find a link to it over at the Leadville100podcast.com website.
Yeah, I got to admit, I have terrible internet here. So if I don't reply on the Slack channel, please chalk it up to that. I'm doing the best I can. If you love this show, and boy, we hope you love the show, go to wherever you listen, give us a 5-star rating, write us a review. Apple Podcasts is a really popular place to do that. And if you want to see all the places where you can find this show, just go to pod.link/Leadville.
Well, normally we say good luck in your training, but that's pretty much done by now.
Yeah,
so good luck in your racing and preparing and getting your feeds ready and all of that stuff. We're going to see you Saturday.
Yeah.
At the start line and then at the finish line.
Oh, looking forward to it.